Hey guys, Montana with Sawyer's Garage here. Finally doing an update video that some of you guys have been waiting on for a couple months now. I've had a pretty busy couple months. Bought a house, had a kid, probably some other things that I've already forgotten about. But anyways, what I keep getting comments about is how is this Tesla radio? Have I fixed the issues that I had with it? How is it working out now that I've got a couple months in on it? How I'm liking it, things like that. So I am going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so some of the questions you guys have been asking, like, hey, have you fixed the speaker issue where I only get sound out of the front two speakers? And as of right now, I have not, and I am going to say that's entirely my fault. And I say it's my fault due to the fact that I've done nothing to fix that issue. Several of you have commented on my last video stating that there might be some wires that I got switched around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pop this radio back out and just take a peek at that and see if that's something I can figure out. Alright, so I just kind of pulled the whole thing back, checked the connections, saw if there was connections that could be flipped from one to the other. I didn't really see many that you could switch around too much. Besides, I know there was one originally that I had found, but I know they're incorrectly because the feature that was not working originally now does. And this was back when I installed it initially. So as of right now, I do not have a solution for not being able to hear music out of any of the other speakers besides the front two, which is kind of a big deal. Now, I've gone through and there's all sorts of advice about how to, hey, you got to go in and change it through your console settings, and you can adjust your balance left and right, and you have to do it here or it doesn't take. This Yukon Denali has that front center speaker. It's supposedly turned on. I don't know. Sound doesn't come out of it. Just kind of a lot. Rear seat audio, which I think is if it actually had seat speakers. So there's settings there, but they don't seem to do anything. So as far as that issue goes, no, that is still unresolved. So I'm not really sure what can be done about that particular issue. There's a couple other features on here that I still have yet to be able to use. One of them is I'm supposed to be able to connect to my phone for like Android Auto. I have yet to be able to make that work. So that's always kind of nice. One of the main features that I bought it for. I still haven't been able to get to work. Inactivated, click to activate. Got to connect to the internet, which I'm not right now. So I still have yet to figure out how that's done. Kind of frustrating because I paid extra to get the Android Auto, Apple CarPlay included, built into the system versus using the USB dongle or whatever. So just know that as of right now it's also partly me. I haven't tried very hard. I've been pretty busy with 1,000 other things, and it hasn't been the top of my priority list. So yeah, that's about it with that particular issue. I'm sure there's a couple others that I'm forgetting right now. Some people were asking, how do you get to your controls for your traction control, park assist, and your pedals? You go to your console icon, and then you're gonna see like I got some foot pedal action here. So like if you hit that button, so that does work. I can hit that, and I can turn park assist off, and then I can turn it back on, and then I can hit the traction control, and it does turn traction control off. So that does work, and that is a cool feature. I like that that is there. It used to, on the original, I believe it's been a while, you just press and hold the park assist and you could disable StabiliTrak. That feature does not seem to work on here. Nothing happens on the dash until I let go of it, and it just says park assist off. So it does not disable StabiliTrak. It's only been summertime. I haven't gone through the winter yet, having to deal with not having StabiliTrak. Me personally, it's not the end of the world for me, but it is nice knowing that you're not going to spin out trying to gas it from a stoplight on the ice. So that is one thing that I have not figured out. I'm assuming there's just not a way to do it. There's just not programmed in. Maybe that's something they can add in the future, something to keep in mind. But otherwise, as of right now, it doesn't work. So that's about all I can say about that. Features that I have used this past weekend, I actually made it a point to utilize the navigation. It seemed to work okay. There was a couple times where it was really weird. It's like it glitched out and it took me back to the main screen of the navigation, where I had to reinitialize, and it had saved what I had last searched for, so I was just able to click back on it and get back into it. So I don't know if that was me. I was driving and trying to mess with it at the same time, so that very well could be my issue there. As far as overall, how do I feel about this radio? I'm going to be pretty honest with you. Not a huge fan. I don't necessarily think it's worth the money that I paid for it. It's kind of cool looking, you know, it's got a big tablet. That's great. My wife absolutely hates it, and every time I'm in the car with her, she asks when I'm putting the old one back in, because she hates it. There's a lot of cons to go with this, and so I want to start kind of focusing on those now. Alright, so some of the negative things that I have with this radio, and you can't tell this right now because I'm inside of my garage. I do have the lights on, but it's not bright like day, is that when you're out in normal bright daylight, you can't hardly see this screen at all. It is not bright enough to overcome average sunlight, which is very frustrating for me as I'm sitting here and I'm trying to adjust my, you know, hey, I want my AC on, whatever, and I'm trying to adjust that real quick, and I just can't because I can't see it, or I got to really sit there and focus on what buttons I'm pressing. I have to really stare at the screen because now it's taking my eyes off the road, which is really defeating the purpose of putting all this information in one spot. It's kind of supposed to keep you more focused on the road and less on the screen, or trying to find buttons. And so I find that, you know, at night, it does have a really handy button where you can press and it's got 3 brightness settings, but on the brightest setting, it is not really cutting it for me. It does have a setting where you can press that and it completely darkens out the whole screen, which is nice when you're driving at night. So nighttime, no issues there. During the day, absolutely atrocious to see this screen. Other issue, and I really can't fault the radio too much, but I wear polarized sunglasses, and the type of screen that this is, you can't read anything with polarized sunglasses on. So this past trip I took, this past weekend, went out of state and came back. Every time I wanted to adjust something, I was going to have to pull my sunglasses off my face real quick, or just lift them up in order to see what I'm trying to press, which is kind of frustrating because I know that's not what it's meant to be, but that's just kind of how it goes. And like I said, I really can't fault them too much because I don't necessarily think that's limited to just this screen. That's really any of these style screens with polarized sunglasses, especially if you're looking at them and it's more or less because if you look at them from an angle, if you look on it head on, it's fine, and that's just kind of the way that they're anti-glare. So this is a little gripe. This thing is kind of glitchy. I've had a handful of times where I'll go to do something and the screen will glitch out and it'll freeze, and I can't do anything else on this screen. Like nothing's responsive. Basically what I end up having to do is wait till I'm done using the vehicle so I can shut the vehicle off, and when I turn it back on, everything resets and it's all good to go. There was an instance where I just went ahead and pulled off the road so I could turn the car off and turn it back on to get the radio to work, because without the screen functioning, I cannot change the temperature controls, which I wanted to do. So kind of a big one. If you can't really trust it to work all the time, you may be going through some traffic or whatever, and you're really not in a good spot to just be popping off the road to turn your car off and turn it back on. So just something to think about. It's still pretty glitchy. I don't know if that's software issues or if it's hardware issues or what's going on there, but that's kind of a drawback for me. Alright, well, those are kind of the main cons that I had. The issue with them is they're kind of big. You know, if you can't see the screen, it's kind of useless. If the screen glitches out, it's kind of useless. Some features, you know, like it's kind of dumb that, you know, it comes with this car, and I guess you can change it. I don't know. You got to go through all the settings, and it's way harder than it should be. Especially if these radios are coming, you know, they're going through all the work of designing the dash, the bezel trim that matches, you know, that wood trim and everything else. You're telling me they can't take the time to upload an image of, in this case, a Yukon or a Suburban or something else and just make it somewhat close? It's really kind of upsetting in the sense of, like, you could have done a proper job, but you kind of half-assed it. That's kind of the feeling I get on this whole piece of equipment, is that this could be really awesome, but the more I use it, the more I feel like it's cheap and it's kind of half-assed. So those are kind of my gripes. You know, like I said, the issue with them is that they're big gripes and they're pretty hard to overlook. There's some features that I lost, one of them being my rear DVD player. My Yukon didn't really used to be a big deal for me not having that rear DVD player, but now I have a kid in the back who is going to want to watch movies someday, and so now I'm going to have to get some sort of auxiliary setup in order to run, which isn't a huge deal except for the fact that my vehicle has a DVD player back there, so why not use the factory one? So ultimately what I was looking for on this was I wanted to be able to use navigation, and I wanted it to kind of be a little more modern with a little more features, and I like the idea that it is updatable, which means it keeps things fresh, which is nice about the newer vehicles. Radios is that they can be software updated wirelessly, which means you can keep getting the newest, latest softwares, things like that, which I thought would be cool with this. The problem is the people who are developing the software for this system, obviously, you know, there's some tweaks to be done, and they don't have the budget like General Motors does to sit there and dig through the bugs and things like that. So do I think it's worth the $550? I can't remember what I spent on it. No. If I was paying somewhere close to maybe around $300, all right, I can probably overlook some of these issues. At this point, there's a good chance I'm just going to put the stock equipment back in here and just pull this out. One, to make the wife happy. But two, just because it really didn't perform the way I wanted it to. So those are just kind of my thoughts and feelings on it. Is it worth it? Not to me. To you it might be. Just, I don't know, it's too glitchy. The screen's too hard to see in daylight, which is the majority of my driving. And I wear polarized sunglasses. So, I mean, on top of not hardly being able to see the screen, I got if I'm wearing my sunglasses, it just doesn't work for me. Maybe that's not an issue for you at all, in which case, great. Go ahead and get it. Still don't think it's worth the money. I think they're kind of luring you in with the whole, oh, it's like a Tesla radio, it's super high-tech, fancy, all this crazy hardware. Reality is, this is a Chinese tablet molded to fit into my dash with some harnesses to make things work. So a lot of potential here. I don't really want to say poor execution, because it's executed pretty decently, just not 100% yet. So I don't know when I'll get around to swapping this out. Maybe I'll give it a couple months, see if there's updates, things like that, and go from there. But as of right now, that is my opinion on this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Some days I can get on and answer questions, and sometimes it goes a couple weeks. It's just, life's crazy now. So otherwise, I appreciate you watching. Hopefully this update video will help you out and will help you make up your mind.